Hello, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Zaina Shahid Khan, the program coordinator at Just Media Foundation. We have assembled here today to hold a session which is a part of our ongoing media lecture series. That is how the alternative media spaces in India. Before beginning our session, I'd like to introduce Just Media Foundation briefly. Just Media Foundation is a registered non-profit organization committed to promoting media literacy, ethical journalism, and the professional development of young journalists. At Just Media, we consider media literacy to be essential in combating fake news and misinformation, particularly in this digital age. Therefore, we train aspiring media students in media production, fact-checking, ethics, and law, enabling students to critically engage with media content. Since our inception in 2021, we have trained over 200 aspiring journalists through various workshops and internship programs. Our foundation focuses on empowering marginalized communities by building alternative media platforms. Apart from workshops and internships, our team conducts media dialogue sessions addressing issues related to marginalized voices, Dalit spaces, Muslim voices, women, and tribal communities. We believe in inclusive and diverse media engagement and focus on the need to move beyond narrow narratives and stereotypes. Our ultimate aim is therefore to create a democratic and inclusive society where every citizen, regardless of their background, can contribute to discussions shaping the nation's future. Today, we have the honor to have with us Dr. Moinuddin Ahmad, who is a multimedia journalist with over 20 years of experience in print, digital, radio, and TV. He has worked with India Times, Mail Today, The Statesman, and has been a part of leading media publications in Germany and Turkey. His reportage expands to international events from Spain, UAE, Germany, Turkey, Nepal, and Bhutan. Mr. Ahmad has also covered major sporting events like the ICC Cricket World Cup 2011, FIH Hockey World Cup 2010, and Commonwealth Games 2010. From his own bureau setup in Beirut for India Times, Mr. Ahmad has reported on the war in Syria and Iraq. At present, Moinuddin Sir is working as a senior editor at Indian Express and as a guest lecturer at AJK Mass Communication Research Center, Jamia Millia Islamia. We are honored to have you with us, sir.
Thank you, Zaina. Thank you for having me.
So, the topic for today's session is how alternative media is reshaping public discourse in India. Now, before delving into the topic directly, so can we talk about how alternative media has evolved and what are the key factors that has contributed to its growth, especially in India?
Well, it's a very basic query. I think we have to ask ourselves, why do we need any alternate? And alternate, one of the reasons why we need alternate is because the existing system is not able to deliver the desired results that we look for. And in media, like even in films, we used to have parallel cinema, which used to show excellence of art of filmmaking, which we didn't used to see in the commercial films. Similarly, when we talk about alternate media fills up as an important, an important element within the media, which brings about certain stories that are generally missed by what we now call the legacy media or the mainstream media.
Yes, sir.
So this is how alternate media came into being, and of course with the digitization, I think alternate media has proliferated even more, because we are talking about a time when we used to really depend on newspapers, and for even television and all, we used to depend on the national media and public broadcasting. But with the emergence of digitization, and we see so many youngsters, their understanding of media and their understanding of storytelling is really amazing and refreshing. It's a departure from the system that was followed for so many years. So it is refreshing to see, and I think all of us should take advantage of the new technologies that we have, and probably the system that is evolving, which we now understand as an alternate media.
So, how do you think have these alternative media been successful in challenging the mainstream media narratives?
See, I personally, because I am a product of mainstream media, so I personally do not like the word challenging.
Okay.
But I would say that yes, it has made the mainstream media realize that because of their own compulsions, their own financial compulsions and all, a lot of things that they may want to cover, but they do not cover because of their advertisers, because of their as I said, financial compulsions. So alternate media is filling in to that and making them realize that okay, you have missed certain things and we are here to fill that gap, as we do it in our research as well. I mean, research scholars, they look for the knowledge gaps that have been left by the previous researchers, and they try to fill in that. So in terms of television production, the lightings, there is a key light and there is a fill light.
Yeah.
So alternate media, I see it from a different perspective, as I said, because probably I'm a bit uh, conservative about this the traditional
The
media.
binary
Yeah,
thinking,
and
yeah.
I have never worked in an alternate media, but all my due respect for that medium as well.
But then, sir, since you talked about the financial conditions, like even these alternative media spaces, they have all the more restrictions financially and economically, because again they get less advertisers, and to bring about certain perspectives and representatives in the like in front of the public audience, it's again a challenge, not only financially but also legally. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I give it to the passion with which the alternate media is driven. I think that it takes less into account the amount of money that it requires and the amount of money that it will generate after doing a particular thing. There is a lot of passion behind the work of alternate media. I see youngsters carrying heavy bags of cameras and traveling here and there, making their documentary films, working on their stories, burning their own pockets to tell some really relevant stories to the people. And now, thankfully, there is a system of monetization through YouTube. So there is a slight, help for some of the alternate media channels that have emerged. But as you have said, that money will remain a challenge. But I think that you know the the very sustenance and existence of alternate media is a proof that this is something which is driven by the passion of the people, not more by the finances of the big money houses around.
And also, like as you mentioned, YouTube, I think other social media platforms too, like Instagram, and like how it's evolving, and it does provide some financial support after you get, I think, some number of followers. So I think even that is helping alternative media to survive.
Yes, I think because it is their own revenue generation model. I remember Facebook when in around 2015 and 16, that Facebook was giving a lot of money to the traditional media houses to
Okay.
produce video when it was starting its own video platform, so
Okay.
that a lot of people come to Facebook with video content and they remain on Facebook. I don't want to name. I mean, all of the traditional media houses, if you go back and see what they were doing in 2015, 16, 17, you'll see that they were all producing, 100, 200, 300 hours of programs for Facebook per month,
Okay.
because Facebook was paying for to them. So it was more for the revenue of these websites rather than for the producers.
Yeah.
But yes, alternate media has been slight beneficiary of this. A bigger thing that has changed the scenario for alternate media is the subscription model, because now we are talking about subscription model, and a lot of people have started paying for what they would like to see. And unlike what they were consuming for free, Now they are realizing that all the free content that is there lacks, essential elements of journalism. And so if they are, if they want to see something in depth, something important, so they are, paying for certain YouTube channels, for, subscribing them and watching their content that they are producing. So subscription model is a way forward, and subscription model is something that even the mainstream media is looking. It is yet to find answers how to increase subscribers. I know that it's a
Yeah,
headache.
yeah,
It's a headache for even the traditional media how to get
definitely.
subscribers, because people in general are not in habit of paying for what they want to see.
True.
So yeah, it's an open debate and open challenge for all sections of media.
Basically, media,
Yes,
the state
definitely,
of media that is there in a country like India.
absolutely.
So coming to our main topic today, can you enlighten us about how alternative media is reshaping public discourse? Like as you mentioned, like people are opting for subscriptions, paid subscriptions, to see to actually see the in-depth reporting and the other perspectives of certain things that are happening. So how do you think that it's happening?
Alternate media has a very important role to play, and it is actually playing that role. As you have said, as you have asked in your question, that it is, shaping or probably challenging the narrative that is set by the mainstream media. So, a lot of topics that are uh, served or propelled by the mainstream media has a lot of insensitivity about it. And topics like Islamophobia, coverage of minority and Dalit issues, even coverage of certain majority community issues, like for example what we have seen with the coverage of Kumbh, is a very problematic thing. I mean, there were several stories, there were several incidents of public loss that were not reported the way they should have been by the mainstream media. So it's not only the minorities and Dalits that are at the receiving end. I think people should realize that even the majority community, for which these big channels claim that,
They
even if
work
they
for,
don't claim, but they
yeah.
they they project themselves that, they are covering. We get to see 24/7 coverage of Kumbh and Ram Temple and all these things. These things are good. I mean, internationally, you see that there are international media organizations. They have their religion beats. So people cover religion, but here in India, the coverage in itself, people tend to forget that they are journalists
Yeah,
rather than,
propagators of one
propagators of,
community or
community and
ideology. Yeah.
ideology, and forgetting. I mean, you as a journalist, we were told, I mean, never to be overwhelmed by the scenario that you are in, because you have to remember that you are a journalist and you have to be objective. Of course, you are a human being. There are times when you feel that the surroundings are overpowering you, and
Yeah.
making you feel that this is something larger than life. But knowing that you are a journalist, you have to detach yourself from the surroundings and keep reporting what is relevant to the people. And as we talked about the recently held Kumbh, there were several stories that were missed by the mainstream media, but the alternate media, the smaller channels, the vigilant, media professionals, they were there on the ground. They tried to bring in certain, stories that were related to people that were, generally, these stories are called human interest stories. So let us accept that category. So even human interest stories should tell the reality, and human interest stories should not be about all the good things that are happening. Of course, people like good stories, people like to hear about success stories.
Yeah.
But as journalists, we have to always question the existing system and how things are going on. So all these things that are missed, that are what you call planned to be missed by the mainstream media. I think that alternate media is very strongly uh, able to counter that narrative which is set by the dominant paradigm as we understand it by the mainstream media.
Fair enough. So, like coming to the this thing, that how do you think that alternative media amplifies marginalized voices in their narratives? Like, yes, like we were talking about Kum, like that is the again even in the mainstream narrative there are things that are being left out, like deliberately. But then when it comes to marginalized voices and marginalized spaces, or like representing marginalized communities, their ordeals, how do you think, like, how successful has alternative media been in that, and how objective has it been? Has it also been, like, tilted towards a certain ideology, or like has it tried to like bring forth the repressed voices? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there is always a margin which may let alternate media slip into a particular ideology, what people generally call echo chambers and all, you know, going along with a particular thought process. But I think there are enough alternate media organizations now and channels and even individuals who are doing their work, who know their responsibility. And coming to your question, that how they are able to you asked about highlighting the problems of the
Marginalized
minorities and the
voices, yeah.
marginalized people. I think it is it is easier for them to identify because it has been generally overlooked by the mainstream media. So if as a journalist, it's always the priority of a journalist to look for an exclusive story, as they call.
Yes.
So it has become slightly easier. I won't say that it has become completely easier, but slightly easier for the alternate media to look for that exclusivity, because this section has been the marginalized section in the Indian society, has been categorically ignored by the mainstream media. And mainstream media goes to the marginalized people only, okay, if there are any heroes, if somebody's son or daughter clears IAS
Yeah,
exam.
as you
And
said, the positive side.
yeah,
Yeah.
positive sides, it is good because they are inspiring stories. But they fall short of asking that why, if somebody is poor, has remained poor for generations. I think Indian society and Indian economic system should be questioned for that. And poor are everywhere in every country, even in the United States. That's not an issue. But we are more concerned about our own country and our own socio-economic reasons that have left certain sections of the society poor, and they have marginalized, and that marginalization is a continuous process. It's not a process that will end here now with this government, with the next government.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. As we understand India, and
Definitely.
as I have understood India, working for the last 20 years as a media personality, I think it's a very dangerous game that is trans governmental process, and governments fail to address that completely. And whenever there is an affirmative action by the government, I think the most unfortunate thing in India is that politicians have learned the word appeasement.
Yeah.
So whenever there is an affirmative action to uplift a particular section of the society, there are cries of appeasement by the politicians. So
And I think even the public, like the supporters of those
Of
politicians,
course, of course.
because even if like a good law is coming in, then the some section of the public would protest against it, and sometimes the protest does get to that extent that you, like for instance, I don't exactly remember, but I think it was related to the people getting admitted in the army like 2 years back, and then there were massive protests in Bihar, like burning of public trains and everything, and so the government had to pull it back. Like
Yeah, I think, see, democracy is not only about voting after 5 years or 3 years or 2 years or 1 year. I think it also includes the process of education, process of educating citizens about their rights, the rights of the other that has been, created politically. So, in that sense, India as a, democracy is lacking. Uh, because as a democracy, you really have to educate your citizens about each and everybody's rights, whether they belong to a particular community or they belong to a particular faith. Everyone who is a citizen of India, is given certain rights by the constitution, and those rights have to be ensured. And even if there are margins under which certain laws are interpreted, I think with education it will be better for people to understand. Have we missed that bus? I I'm not sure now, but I think that we are lagging behind.
definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, so, what do you think? Like, what are the biggest challenges that alternative media faces regarding press freedom and state censorship?
I think there is a huge challenge. There is a huge challenge because obviously the government of the day, whichever government is ruling, they do not like criticism. And alternate media, the good thing about alternate media is that it is doing its work and it is critical of the government. Uh, Obviously, over the years, there have been some channels who are within the alternate media space who are praising the government
Yeah,
and its
yeah.
policies and giving platforms to the government spokespersons as well. Even these channels have become spokespersons of the government.
Yeah.
Some of them even share the information before the government agencies and the mainstream media share it. So, but at the same time, the alternate media, the essential alternate media, what I call, uh, is challenging, as we have spoken before, is challenging the narrative, and hence the government of the day is not liking this at all, and there are, there are plans. Government is planning to bring certain laws on, alternate media
Censorship.
and censorship and each and everything. We don't know how things will pan out, but it could be easily sensed that this is going to harm the freedom of
Press.
expression of people, and this entire thing should not be confused with the freedom of expression in other ways, like in entertainment industry, like in other ways. I think news and information and public information is should be dealt with in a different way completely. And people, because we all are taxpayers, we all are paying tax in different capacities, so we have the right to know everything.
Definitely.
It is not about a stand-up comedy show and debate around that, what has happened in that. It is news and information is the right of every individual, and it should not be meddled with in any way. But there is a strong sense within the community, within alternate media. I have my friends who keep on talking about this, and they sense that there are tough times ahead of them. Yes.
Um, what role do you think citizen journalism plays in strengthening alternative media spaces?
Citizen journalism is important. However, I would say that citizen journalism requires a certain level of training,
Okay.
because picking up certain issues uh, is very important. I know that every issue is important, right from the complaints about sewage, right from the complaints about not having a proper bus stand in a different in a particular area. These all issues are very important, but the way they have to be covered, the way they have to be treated, and requires a slight amount of training for the citizen journalists, so that they are taken more seriously.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to discourage people who are into citizen journalism. I think where we are sitting, we have a good publication called Okhla Times.
Yes. Yes.
I think that such publications are doing really good job by letting the people know about their neighborhood. I mean, I'm a follower of such publications, such pages on social media, because despite being a journalist, because my focus is somewhere else, it's in the parliament or it's in the White House. I tend to forget what is happening in my own neighborhood. But when I look at such publications, I get to hear a lot about my own neighborhood. So that in that term, citizen journalism is important, and local journalism, hyper local journalism, is also important. But I really hope that there is a mechanism where there is training for them and there is ample amount of money, because what happens after a certain period of time, they lose steam because of lack of money. So there has to be a good revenue model. I hope people from IITs and IIMs come and help these organizations
Yeah.
building up a revenue model, how they go about it, talking to local shops and local businessmen if they can invest. Uh, but yeah, I mean, investment in itself is a problematic proposition, because when we talk about investment,
You expect,
yeah,
yeah,
there are
profit, exactly.
expectations of, and we know how there are power play within neighborhoods, particularly within the minority community ghetto neighborhoods.
Yeah,
I think there
definitely.
are different kind of power play that is there.
So, sir, do you think that alternative media can fight against the narratives of the mainstream media while maintaining its credibility? Because again, the even whatever we discussed till now, that the mainstream media does show one of certain aspects and does not show the other aspects, but then it does have credibility to it, like whatever it has established since like years and everything. And if alternative media is reporting against it or some other aspects of the same situation, for example so how do they do it while maintaining, like while assuring its viewers that it is credible and like it's not fake information that is just, moving around?
I think it's not like a David versus Goliath fight. It's not a versus kind of a situation, but I think it has a lot more to do about realization. And I think that over a period of time, because as a researcher and as a journalist, first of all, you just look around and talk to the people near you, and you get a sense of what all is happening. I think mainstream media, particularly television,
Television, yeah.
it is people are realizing that that is not the best place for correct information, and they have to look for other mediums as well for information. So what I think a lot of people have stopped watching TV news because of this only, and whatever number of people are watching television news, I think they are just switching on their television. I mean, I do not have any empirical data to back my argument, but I have a sense after talking to the people, at least educated circles, that they are only mocking the television news, and this mockery is a product of their own, uh, you know, kind of work that they have done over the years. I think there used to be a time when people used to idolize news readers, and used to follow them and used to become like them. But now it's news readers, most of the news readers, the stars of Indian news media industry, most of them are only mocked because of
Yeah.
what the kind of work that they are doing. So whatever respect that is left, I think a lot of people are even now moving. My college senior Sanket Upadhyay, who's worked for almost all big channels in India. He's left the mainstream media, and he's working on his own channel, a YouTube channel called this thing, Red Mike.
Okay.
So I think a lot of others, Ravish
Ravi,
Kumar, and
yeah.
other journalists, they are on YouTube. Some of them were fired from their jobs because of speaking certain things that were not liked by the government of the day. And some of them just they had their means, and they just decided that it was the situation was not right for them to stay in the mainstream media anymore. So I think that has happened with television. Newspapers, I would still say that newspapers are, despite their limitations, despite their challenges, uh, people trust them, people read them, and the entire process of producing a newspaper is extremely tedious. And I mean, I can tell you, in most of the news rooms I have worked, I think people really put their heart out in their work, and they stay awake till 2, 3 a.m. and produce the newspaper with responsibility, that tomorrow the readers will read, and no misinformation should go there. So that is there, definitely.
So, do you think that podcasting is emerging as a very powerful tool for independent journalism?
Yes, podcasting is important. I think podcasting has come slightly late to India, but better late than never. So we are, witnessing some really good podcasts that are happening. Some of them are even paid now. So podcasting is important because podcasting is. So first of all, with digital medium, there is no lack of time. I think you can have a podcast for 8 hours or 10 hours, or you can just go on and tell your story. So if it's an interesting story, people. The good thing about digital is that you instantly know for how long a person was there watching your content.
Yeah.
So I have seen podcast as long as 3 hours,
Oh.
and they have video podcasts. They are there. So, and it was so interesting because the speaker and the presenter, both of them were speaking in an interesting manner and an interesting topic. So people can watch that for as long as possible. So there is no limitation. There is obviously people who are subscribing to YouTube and all, so they don't have to watch unnecessary ads.
Yeah.
So podcasting, there is still a lot of scope in podcasting that has to be filled by the podcasters in India. I think they have moved more towards video logs than serious podcasting. But there are several good podcast channels from India and even from Pakistan, very interestingly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, these two South Asian neighbors you have been catching up with the podcasting things. Otherwise, we used to hear podcast on Apple Music and
Yeah.
YouTube and all. But now uh, Indians and Pakistani podcasts, they are really good, and they are producing it for 15-20 minutes. But there are certain subjects for which they go long, and people are watching it. You can see that there are millions of views on that. So people are earning money from that as well. At the same time, in terms of information, I think the viewers are getting good information as well.
Uh, just one second. So, how do you think corporate and political influence shape mainstream media narratives? Like, if we just talk about the mainstream media narratives, because again, as you said, there are conditions as to why they are working the way that they are working. It's not always that they are doing it out of their will. There are economic conditions, but then again, like the corporate and particularly the corporate and political influence. What do you think that it's
So
about?
there used to be a time when corporate and politics were still
Apart.
apart.
Yeah.
I mean, were still at a distance. But now we are living in a time of cronies and crony capitalism, and
Capitalism, yes.
all the oligarchs that are running the country. So there's hardly any difference between politics and what we call the big money houses. We see Elon Musk standing,
Next to
alongside,
Trump.
next to
Yeah.
Trump. And in our own country, I mean, there are stories about closeness of political leaders with,
The
these
billionaires,
businessmen, the
yeah.
billionaires out there. So now, since they are so closely entangled, I think it is very difficult to work, without their influence. They are influencing each and everything because they are the biggest ad givers. They run. Earlier, it used to be the scenario when government ads used to be different from private ads. Now there there are still government ads and private ads, but I mean it's very difficult to really differentiate because on several pages there the government events are sponsored by private companies.
Yeah.
So in that sense they are also putting in a pressure on the publications through the government,
Yeah.
if not directly, if not threatening the publishers directly. So through the government they are putting pressures of not reporting, a lot of issues related to mining, a lot of issues related to the migration of the people because they are setting up, their industries out there. They are not. They are putting pressures not to report on the condition, environmental issues
Yeah.
particularly. So I think people who are covering environment, they really face the heat, and they are the ones who initially face the heat. And once they are able to do the story, then it's very difficult to convince their editors to publish such stories. So yeah, I think they both politics and corporate,
Corporate.
they put in a lot of pressure on the mainstream media, and in future I think they will come for the alternate media as well.
As well. So, continuing to talk about the mainstream media, apart from, like, since you talked about environment, why do you think that the voices or the representation of Dalits, Adivasis, and or minorities are not there in the mainstream media?
I think this is a personal opinion, but I think that these three categories have been bracketed in a law and order kind of a situation. So if there is if there is any story related to law and order of related to these groups, I think media is going to report it, because mainstream media, I would say, is going to
Yeah.
report it, because then they can say, okay, these are the problematic sections of the society. So the conventional wisdom becomes that, okay, these are Muslims, they are going to fight anyway. Okay, these are Adivasis. Okay, they
They
are
are
always
uneducated.
protesting. They
Yeah.
are uneducated. They don't understand the development.
Hmm.
So this is how they are able to build the conventional wisdom about certain things. And this is a well thought process. This is not out of any what you call any innocence on the part of media. This is a well thought process that, okay, if we are going to cover this, we are going to cover this from this perspective. Okay, fine. If they are going to show some good stories about minorities and such peoples, they will show the food.
Yeah.
The maximum coverage of good things about the minorities and all is okay, Ramzan food.
Cultural
There is coverage,
representation.
cultural
Yeah.
representation and all. But one has to really understand that culture and social issues are different, and there has to be equal
Weightage too.
weightage, equal coverage of all these issues altogether.
Sir, even apart from coverage, like, actually hiring persons from these such communities like Dalits and Adivasis, we don't see, like, their representatives there on the mainstream or on the channels. So again, I think even that plays a very big role in how the story plays out or their representation is done.
Yeah, I think there have been studies. I mean, I'm an aberration because I'm a Muslim and I've been a part of
Yeah, yeah.
big, news organizations. But there have been empirical studies that have shown that the number of, Dalits particularly are very low in the mainstream media. And people don't talk about it generally. People are very conservative about talking about such realities, and anyone who initiates such talks are basically shunned, that, oh, no, this is not a reality, we don't get enough CVs, we don't get this, we don't get that. But this, this is an entire chain, I would say, that okay, if it's a matter of choice, then okay, you may go with someone who has studied at a good university, at a better institution. But we have to see that if somebody who is going to a lesser known institution, there is a reason behind it. There is, the lack of exposure is not always because of the competence of a person.
Yes.
It's also because of the conditions that that person is coming from. And I have seen, because I visit certain universities for lectures and all, and I haven't seen any difference. And obviously there is a difference in language and in confidence,
Yeah.
that is there. But when you talk about intellect, when you talk about articulation, I think all the kids who are entering the universities, most of them with varied degrees, I would see them as equals, and if given chance, all of them can shine. That can happen.
Let's come to language, the topic of language. How do you think the language, vernacular languages versus, of course, the English language, which has become the mainstream, impact media accessibility and representation? Because again, as India is a diverse country, not everybody speaks Hindi, not everybody speaks Urdu. Hindi and Urdu are concentrated in North India, which is again considered to be dominant over other languages, and then even that's a big debate. But apart from that, how do you think this affects the media accessibility? Like you talked about local reporting, Okla Times and everything. So, the language that they should use to ensure their accessibility through, to their audience or to a wider audience?
I think that, obviously having information, having a certain piece of information in your own language is helps a lot in understanding the real subjects, because the language in which you think, in which you talk, makes you understand certain topics in a better manner. But the tragedy in our vernacular languages, or even larger spoken languages, what we are seeing is that, particularly with Hindi and Urdu, that in media these languages have been communalized.
Yeah, that.
And the kind of coverage that you see
True.
in Hindi media is totally from the perspective of majority community. And if you analyze a lot of content in Urdu media, which is owned by the majority community as well, so they are earning money from both the sides.
Yeah.
Taking example, I don't want to name newspapers, but everybody who
Yeah,
reads
yeah.
newspapers, they know which Urdu newspaper is owned by which owner.
Yeah.
So the reality is that if you read the language of any given particular event, they are also communally charged, and an Urdu reader would never realize that a Hindi reader would be getting a similar kind of content from a different perspective altogether. So this is very unfortunate that this has happened, and this really makes me feel that there needs to be an overhaul of when we think about vernacular. Now there is a huge debate about languages, nationally, about one, two, three languages,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever is the number. So the matter. I'm not a Tamil reader. I'm not a Malayalam reader, but I can only, speak on the basis of the reactions that I get from my friends from South India.
Yeah.
That whatever is being written in their language is like very counter to what the mainstream Indian Hindi media is trying to impose on them. So the purpose of information as a national information, as a unified information, is somewhere losing its cause
Because of the barrier in languages.
because
and
of the barrier in languages. Uh, Ideally it should have been. Coming back to your question. Ideally, it should have been, nurtured in a way that people get easy information in their preferred language.
Yeah.
But now that information is tricked and tweaked in a manner that their minds are being what you call, they are being brainwashed in a particular ideology. So that is a big problem that we face now.
So I think that is a very important aspect that you highlighted, and I think that's where the English again, which automatically, or because of colonization, of course, it became the one of the major languages that we speak. So it comes into play because then it somehow bridges a gap, and it cannot be communalized, as you said. And then again, even in North India, like where Hindi and Urdu both are spoken, like we speak Hindustani, we don't even speak pure Urdu or pure Hindi, and even then, if it's being polarized into just to spark communal outrage, then that's very unfortunate. And I think that was a very important point to highlight. Also, if we combine digital activism and citizen journalism, can these create new spaces for unheard voices, like for the marginalized, or the voices that are not being represented, even the poor?
Always, but we have to be very cautious that we should not, there are different school of thoughts, and I'm not being preachy over here, but I would prefer to keep activism at bay with journalism. Journalism, with its own core values, is so strong that it doesn't need the clutches of activism.
Okay.
If you are an honest, a strong journalist, an honest who values the the basics of journalism, I don't think that you need support of activism. You have to report the truth. You have to whenever you see that somebody is being marginalized, somebody is being ignored, somebody's story is not being told, you have to be there to uh, cover that. Now, taking no credit away from the activists, they are the ones who highlight the issue. They are the ones, there have been very good collaborations between activists and the journalists in the past. Like, for example, Narmada Bachao Andolan and all these things. The activists have done their jobs and journalists have done their jobs. But the job of a journalist is to report the situation and probably be less what you call less emotionally probably attached to the situation as the activists tend to become. So, I mean, as I said, that if you remain a journalist with all the what you call basic ideas, I think you can do a good job.
So like basically we have, like, for being a good journalist, you need to be more objective than an
Absolutely.
activist.
So objectivity is at the top. That's the brain of a journalist. That should be the the crown of a journalist. You cannot compromise with objectivity when you are doing journalism. See, there are categories of storytelling.
Yeah.
Fine. There are categories of reporters who who are reporting almost everything that is happening, right from the space to the oceans. But on top of everything, there has to be an idea of what journalism is. Journalism is not merely you know collecting information and
Delivering it.
delivering it uh, to the viewer. It's also about using your brains. What you are seeing, how it is happening, why it is happening, what is behind it, what are the particular reasons that a certain thing is happening. You really have to apply your brains to it while covering everything. So generally certain things get confused. So when people say that you just have to report what you see,
Yeah.
that does not mean that okay, you have to switch off your senses, other senses and other channels of information. First of all, you have to verify what you are seeing, the things that are happening right in front of you. There may be several reasons for that, so you have to verify that. And while doing a story, while doing your research, you have to come prepared with a particular background of covering a story. So yes, I think that coming back to your question, all these things have to be done keeping in mind that objectivity should remain on top of every work that you do.
So that's quite right. Like, that's how what is, like, that's the main purpose of journalism, to remain objective. But then so many people use this parable that if it's raining outside and, like, you have to report it. Like, this is like just an example. So you can just go outside and see that if it's raining or not. You don't need to be objective about that. That it has been Alice that it's raining. Like, same, like, taking the very blunt example of the Israel-Palestine situation that is there. It is a genocide. Like, you don't, like, this is what I feel, and if you can correct me if I'm wrong or not, because, like, what is there out there being backed up by the world's most powerful economy and everything, and then citizens that are being jailed into one particular region and then being bombed and bombed and bombed, and then even the prisoner swap that is happening. There's a reason why, like, such less number of prisoners are here, like, as hostages, and they are very like, obviously they are being taken care of. Particularly, that's again, there are a lot of examples out there. And then, like, the number of Palestinian prisoners that are coming out of Israel. So again, so objectivity in that sense, what do you think, like, the, like, talking about the international media, how do you think that objectivity, like a journalist remains objective in those cases? Like, because
So beginning with the parable that you have used, that is
yeah,
often used about rain, and if it is raining outside, obviously that's the difference between a lazy person and an active person. An active person by nature would, even at a hint of rain, would like to go out and see, and probably even have a shower. In
yeah,
that, you really have to, if you are an active person, you really have to go out, and definitely you have to check what all is happening. You cannot depend on the information that has come to you sitting on your chair, or probably in your cozy bedroom.
yeah,
So you have to really go out and check what all is happening. And then, about this Israel-Palestine conflict, yeah, definitely. I mean, so first of all, we have to see what is the definition of a genocide. So what all has happened in Gaza, it's a mass killings of people, with the help of international weapons that
yeah,
Israel has got. It's not Israel on its own that has to be blamed. I personally blame the entire world that
yeah,
has
of course,
actually provided them
hmm.
with the weapons. And at the same time, Hamas, what Hamas did, a lot of people consider that to be, a part of their freedom struggle, and how they have reacted to the the situation that was there for so long in Gaza.
Yeah,
They wanted to break free. But it's again, it takes us to a philosophical question, whether this probably was the way of was the correct way of doing it or not. So let's not get into
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But I would say that, yeah, I mean, covering any killing anywhere, even a single murder, you have to be with the victim. Fine. You cannot justify any murder. I mean, we live in a civilized society. So first of all, justifying any murder is out of question, because there is law and order. There is, uh, there are a lot of things to that become the, what you call, the hallmark of a civilized society. So as far as that is concerned, obviously that was a genocide, and there is, if somebody wanted to go out there and see what all was happening during any kind of a conflict, now we have to be very specific about it, because we are living in the age of information,
yeah,
and there is a lot of information that comes whenever there is a conflict. So there is an information war as well. So there were claims and there were counter claims that were happening, but one thing that one has to follow is the numbers that are given by the respected international organizations, like for example UN
yeah,
was crying all the while that these many people are being killed. They are still being killed.
yeah,
So you don't have to identify that, for on which side of the conflict you are. The number of people killed will remain the same. And if you say that, okay, 50,000 people killed in just 1 year is justified, then I think you really have to see, what level of humanity you live with.
yeah. You cannot just back it up with objectivity of a journalist.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not. Absolutely not. I mean, there were arguments that, okay, Hamas was hiding among the people, and
yeah,
Hamas is that, and Hamas is that. This is all where the people of Gaza will go? That is the big question. And okay, Israel had to kill. It has killed. Has it been able to finish Hamas? No, it
No.
has not been able to finish Hamas. So how many people it wants to kill? More 50,000, more 1 lakh, 2 lakhs. When will it end? It has to end somewhere. And it, you really have to go back to the negotiating table and really find a solution for both the states. The Palestinian state has to come for peace.
So since like we went a bit off topic, coming back to the Indian contest, what lessons do you think that the Indian alternative media can learn from global independent journalism channels?
I think I would say that Indians have actually carved their way out of doing their work. I don't think that there are a lot of lessons to be learned from international organizations. See, media really works in their own given situations. Like for example, we look up at for example publications like Al Jazeera and all. So they work in a it's not a democratic country.
Yeah.
Fine, it is funded by a royal family. It shows certain kind of stories very well, but it hides at the same time several stories that it should tell. So similarly, European media, I think there are a lot of things that it should talk about. It doesn't talk about colonialism much. It doesn't talk about, the French media does not talk about what the French colonists have done in Algeria and other African countries. Similarly, the British media, a lot of it ignores what it has done. I think while showing the poverty in Asian and African countries, it should tell that we have ruined these countries, but it always falls short of it. So within Indian context, within Indian situation, I think Indian alternate media has carved its way out pretty well. I think there are very brave journalists who are doing these kind of jobs, and they are fearlessly doing. Some of them have been to jail as well for doing independent work, for doing fact checking, and for running their channels. But I think I personally don't feel that there are any lessons to be learned from outside. I think Indian media professionals are very well equipped to face the situation that they are in.
Yeah, so I'm sure that is a very morally boosting statement that you gave, and like that's true. Like people are working, and despite being like in such strict laws under such circumstances where they are always prone to
Yes.
like vigilation and everything. So again that. So like in like we can in your concluding remarks, like if you want to speak a little about how do you see the future of alternative media evolving in India, and like if like the potential challenges and opportunities, like.
Well, I think telling future of anything is a is a job of somebody who's become an ascetic or a baba.
Yeah.
I'm not that. I'm a practical media practitioner. But I think I still have a lot of hope with the youngsters in India, and I have told you that I come across a lot of youngsters who are coming from different parts of India, and who are in this profession. So journalism is not a profession that your parents would send you to. Fine, and I speak to them, and usually in my first lectures in classes, I just tell them that you are not here because of your parents, you are here because of your own dreams.
Yeah.
And so this is something that you really have to prove your decision to be correct. So, and they are really up for it. I mean, I can see the faces of youngsters coming to journalism. They are not even able to pay the bills of their food as well at times.
Yeah.
I mean, there are friends who are working with at corporates, they are the ones. That has happened with me. I mean, I could not afford a cup of coffee at a decent place in my initial years. It was my friends working at the embassies, working at the corporate with the corporates. They would give me the tickets of Anushka Shankar, and they would take me to the Starbucks of the world and all these things. So I'm not saying that that is the only important thing in life, but yeah, I mean, since it is there, you have to experience it. And young people, at the cost of their joys in life,
Yeah.
I think they are making a huge sacrifice. And once you are ready to sacrifice, I think it's a philosophical moment in everybody's life. Once you are ready to sacrifice, I think you are in for definitely a path to change the future. And this is how I see a lot of promise in alternate media and the youngsters who choose to become a part of it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bilal, for being behind the scenes and helping in the production of this session. Thank you, Masi, sir, for providing us the opportunity and the umbrella to actually hold this session. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. It was great. It was an honor to
Thank,
actually to have a discussion with you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.